Okay, hi class. We are ready to start Module 8, Week 8. Hopefully, you guys had a great weekend and are ready to start this new week. So, you guys just finalized your menu designs. We had 2 weeks to create your menus, 4 pages. You followed the directions, made any corrections, hopefully. And then last week, we created a print ready file based on conversion of colors and other things that we did to get it press ready. So if you haven't submitted the projects that was due last week, please do as soon as possible. Some of you may need to still go back and resubmit yours. I just went through all of those of you who submitted and made comments. So please go back and see if you need to resubmit anything. I do have to place a 0 in the meantime. So don't freak out. If you need to make changes, make those changes and get it back to me as soon as possible. And then if you want to shoot me an email to let me know, especially if you're catching up with discussions, because sometimes those are hard to see if you submitted it after the due date. So just shoot me an email, let me know that you did that as well. That way I can go back and make sure I'm grading those. I do have a lot of people in this section, so it just helps me keep organized. Okay, so week 8, we are going to be doing a restaurant advertisement for your restaurant. So, typically as a designer, if you get work, especially for a magazine or say like a brand that you're designing their menu for, you're designing ads for that brand, for different purposes. So for this week, we are going to keep that brand, that look and style that you guys created for your menus. And we're going to create a cohesive ad that will go for, kind of go with your brand. And as far as your menu goes as well, it should look like they belong together in a way, as far as style is concerned. So this week we are going to also do a discussion as well. So don't forget that. And your discussion is basically going to be more about the success of your design, uh, given the attention to the details that you put within each page of your menu. So what are some commonly overlooked attention to detailed items do you believe that maybe other people, you know, kind of look over and don't do? Or maybe it's something that you found yourself kind of overlooking, and kind of point those out. When you're answering and responding to your peers, maybe mention some items that they may have not brought up so that you're giving them another perspective. Okay, so make sure you're starting that post as soon as possible so that we can get the discussions going. As far as your restaurant materials go, what you want to do is click on your week 8 assignment assets and download this folder. This is going to give you not only a checklist of what you need to do for this project, but it's also going to give you your Word file. So the type, kind of like the type that's needed for the ad. And also, and I'm going to show you my folder here. This is what it's going to look like. When you download it, oh, this is actually on my, hold on one second. This is not the right one. All right, let's see here, desktop and assets. There we go. We have your, it should be a Word file in there called advertisement copy. There should be a QR code, JPEG, and a checklist. So go ahead and download that. And that way you can get started and kind of see what you need to do for this particular project. Okay. And it kind of follows through this assignment list too. So this is kind of what's in the checklist. So let's go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to sharing my screen of my classroom. I'm going to go back to my InDesign file here. Actually, let's do this. Let's share my entire screen so you guys can see everything I have open here. So I just opened up that folder, that assets folder, and I opened up my checklist here, that PDF, and I opened up my Word file. I'm going to leave the QR code alone for now because That's going to come in a little later here. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is look at this checklist, and I'm going to see that I have to do this in InDesign only. I see that the size is 8.5 by 11. I have to define a grid structure, only use Adobe CC fonts. I have to have the restaurant logo on there, the QR code, define color palette from menu. That just means keep it consistent. You know, obviously you're not going to use different colors that you did not use in your menu design. Use all required text for your chosen restaurant. So there should be a file in there called advertisement copy docs. Got to open that up. And at least one image. Do not copy and paste your images into your InDesign document. Use file place, and you can use these links for free copyright-free images. You're going to export when you're done. You're going to save it as an InDesign file, but export as a PDF, high quality, and then you're going to submit it for grading. So what I would suggest is go back to your menu design here and just kind of look at it, kind of get a good idea of what your overall mood looks like. And what I would really highly suggest, you don't have to do this, but you could use the same imagery used in here as far as like the background texture, if you want to kind of keep it more unified. But you definitely need to use the logo, the QR code, and the copy given. So I would kind of keep it consistent looking. All right, I'm going to create a new file. So file, new document, and I'm going to do 8.5 by 11. For this, I will do a bleed because, you know, if it's a printed piece, I want to make sure that I have a bleed on all sides. So I'm just going to do, actually, let me see, I did this a little bit too big here. I'm going to make my bleeds 0.125. That should be enough for if I have any imagery kind of going out to the sides. And this is for print purposes. So that's important to have established. Now, where's my, do advertisement copy here. There we go. I'm going to open up this copy here, and I'm going to pick my actual brand here. So I'm going to do this one. Obviously, that's mine. But go ahead and find yours, and you can copy and paste this into your ad. Okay, let's see here. And I'm going to take my type tool. I'm going to just go ahead and draw out like a big text box here. Now, don't forget, you want to keep this unified. So whatever copy typeface that you use for your menu, you want to kind of keep that consistency, okay? So for instance, let's go up here. Turfins is what I use for my categories and for my body copy. So I want to keep that consistent. What am I doing here? I'll go back. There we go. So Turfins would be here. Turfins. And, you know, maybe some of this wouldn't be all bold, but we'll just leave it like this for now. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something that's cohesive. Now, I don't necessarily have to use the background imagery. I could use maybe even the pictures that were given in the project itself here. So let's go back into our folder. And it depends on like the size of the actual picture here. So let's say we're going to do something like this. And maybe what I'm going to do is utilize just the first top as, you know, just for the actual image. And then maybe down here, you can see I'm bleeding out my box here, drawing a box. I'm going to just go ahead and use that wood texture just down here. So you could do something like this too. It doesn't have to be, you know, the entire full bleed. You can kind of split it up. Just make sure it makes sense. You don't want to split your you never want to do a half and half just because it automatically creates a disconnect as far as like doing a half picture and half texture. Just an FYI there. You want to keep it so it's like almost like a 1/3 type of a look here. So maybe even just making my image bigger and then having the texture be my background for my copy is kind of a nice look. And I changed that because I thought maybe seeing the picture of the food would be more appealing than just, the background texture. Okay, then I did like a center line because I liked how the centered bowl is. So I'm going to keep it cohesive with my alignment. It's completely up to you and what you want to do. Then I'm going to also remember, don't forget, you need to also place in your logo. There's the logo right here. Now, your logo for your ad doesn't have to be huge. I know a lot of students do make the logo a little bit too big. The logo, now remember, this is going to be shown in a magazine, so it's going to be fairly close to your face when you're reading it. You don't need to have like a huge logo on here, as long as it's like a send-off and that you can read it. We're going to go ahead and center that. And then we're going to make this copy a little smaller. And we're going to make sure we align it with our grid here. I'll pull this up just slightly. We have a little bit more room here. And then I'm going to read the copy and I'm going to set up an established hierarchy. So let's do lunch. Live lunch, live lunch to the fullest, starting at. So maybe do a space in between that. And I'm going to make this bigger so that it's like, captures the attention. Let's do like 32, maybe even a little less than that. Let's do maybe 28. And then what I would probably do is I could probably just fit this on one line if I wanted to. That way I kind of saving space. I'm putting bullet points in between here. And then making this smaller and maybe less bold. Let's do medium. And then there we go. Perfect. And then what we could do is just maybe the number, phone number, we can make that bold. I'm going to put that in a completely different text box. So I'm going to delete that out of there, copy, delete it before I do anything. And just so it's easier to maneuver because it's going to be kind of below here. And I'm going to place this right on this margin guideline here. And I'm going to place the logo up a little bit. And then I'm going to center the logo. Center content, perfect. Okay, and then I just want to make sure my box isn't going over any part of the logo. Perfect. All right, so let's see, what else do I got? So this is the trim view. Let me save this before I do anything. So I would save this as your first initial last name, project 8, and then do add something like that. Save it to the desktop. And then this is what it looks like trimmed here. Okay, so if you ever want to see what it looks like trimmed, just go to the very bottom icon here and hit preview. Normal will give your, all your bleeds and your guides. Okay, and then once I'm done with that, I'm just gonna make sure that this is pointed out perfectly here. So live lunch to the fullest starting at $7.95. I'm gonna put a little bit of a space in between and I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. make this regular and maybe 14 points. It's a little bigger. Oops. I'm actually going to go back and do 13 points. And then maybe just making the certain points in here more bold. To the time and then the price. And then I just want to make sure it's nice and balanced. So maybe I'm going to pull this up just a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit. That way I have nice spacing in between my, you know, I don't want this information too close to my logo. You know, I want like a nice space in there. Okay. So go ahead and play around with that. See what you can come up with. This is just my grid structure I wanted to do. You can play around with color if you want to. Just make sure you're, you know, making it cohesive with everything in your layout. You could just go ahead and take color from inside the image that you're placing in here. You know, you have a nice orange color and the yellow color. You know, maybe let's see, I don't know if this would look good or not. Let me see. It's like lighter orange color. Go back to your menu. Maybe there's colors in there that you utilize that you want to kind of do the same. Oh, I did red here. So maybe making that red, you know, if it's readable. Actually, probably let's just make this white again. And I think red might be hard to read in certain parts here, but you know, maybe making the phone number red. Even this headline could be red instead of this color. Grabbing it from the pepper in there. Yeah, it's a little hard to read. It's a little kind of vibrates the eye because it's so close to the contrast of the background. If I were to want to make that work, I'd probably make the background a little bit darker. And how I would do that is I would just take my rectangle tool and go ahead and draw out the same size box, and I would fill it with a black color. And then I would bring everything forward. So shift select my logo and all my copy object, bring to front so that all this copy goes to the front. And then all I would do is go to properties and see where it says opacity. I would just dial this down a little bit. So you can still see the texture, but you're kind of in control of how much, you know, opacity there is, but you can still see the texture through that. So then maybe the red would work a little bit better in that case because you have a little bit more contrast going on. There we go. And you can always adjust that. Like say if you want to go a little darker, you could go like 70, see how it kind of gets even darker. 65 might be good. So you can still see that texture back there, but you're helping your contrast out for your copy. Maybe this copy becomes this green, like yellow color. Maybe a lighter yellow here. There we go. Okay. Play around with it. You don't have to do what I did. Just, you know, what I would really suggest you do is look up full page ads, restaurant ads. Let's see, file, new tab, full page restaurant ads. Just do an image, Google image search for that. And just check out how they have theirs kind of gridded out. You know, you might see ones where they're doing little images over top of a big image, you know, doing something interesting like this, where they're kind of having blocks of color with their logo. So really kind of, I would really research this before you get started with yours, and get an idea of how you want to, show your ad. You want to make sure people can see that it's a cohesive brand. So you want to make sure that the menu and the ad looks, fairly similar. It doesn't have to look exactly the same, but you're using the same fonts, maybe the same background texture, maybe a similar image, obviously the same logo, and you're keeping it cohesive in that way. And you're just kind of playing around with the overall grid structure of it. All right, when you're done, go ahead and just go export, or I'm sorry, Adobe PDF. Just go ahead and choose high quality PDF. As far as this goes, you can definitely go in here and choose your crop marks and bleeds. That way I know that you're paying attention to that. And then I would say go ahead and view your PDF before you submit it. That way, if there's any issues that you might not have thought about, and you open this up and you can see maybe something going on, sometimes that's a nice way to proofread it, make sure everything looks good before sending it. Okay, so that's basically it. I'm going to post this to announcements and also into your assignment area for week 8. And you guys can get started with that.